All right. Um, so I guess first, do you want to tell me like, um, or do you want to like explain what what it was that like we talking about today, or like how everything like kind of led up to that?
Yeah, well, like I think that there's just a lot of incorrect information circulating about like people just think that they kind of know what happened, but in reality, they have no fucking idea what happened. So this is weird because on your screen, I'm seeing myself, but I'm mirrored. There's a mirror, and it's like I wish Discord would let you flip your appearance. It's so
Yeah,
stupid.
I did too.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. I made a YouTube video about it. And after tonight, I'm probably not going to talk about it anymore because I do not believe that I caused Mr. Girl's ban. I think that I have some really solid arguments on why I don't think that is. And I don't think that it's fair for basically like everybody on the internet collectively to accuse me of that when there's absolutely no evidence. And Mr. Girl himself hasn't even shown his ban email. So for all we know, it could be like an inappropriate username or something like that. You know, there's like any number of things they can ban you for. And it's not just like, oh, this girl doesn't like you and she got you mass reported. That's fake. That's fake news. Twitch doesn't do that. In fact, I had a very public battle with an actual predator. Um, and we took it a really far, like really, really far. And Twitch finally responded to us and said that they do not look at things faster if there's, one report versus thousands of reports, and that mass reporting people does not trigger an automatic ban. I don't know why there's this myth circulating around about that, but Twitch themselves has said that's not true to me personally.
Hmm.
And so basically, what happened? How you get banned is somebody reports your channel on Twitch, right? Which I did not do, and I didn't ask anyone else to do anything like that. So somebody reports your stream to Twitch, and they spell out the specific violation and submit it. And then a Twitch person looks at that report and confirms whether or not there was a TOS violation. It's not just like, I don't like this kind of content. It has to be a specific TOS violation, right? And so, yeah, it's not like me tweeting out about not liking his content is going to just cause him to get banned. There had to be a TOS violation, you know?
There is a part in the TOS, they just added this about a year ago, that says you're not allowed to like promote or like kind of agree with pedophilia. So they,
Really?
yeah, they,
Can you find that?
I,
I did not see this.
I know this
Um,
specifically because that's what I got banned for. So
whoa, hold on, what?
I made
We
a,
got an apologist. No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
no, I made a joke and got banned for it.
Oh, that
So
was okay. Switch community guidelines. So, I'm very familiar with them too. I just went on a very public. If you check out my YouTube channel, there's a video on there where I exposed Twitch for not banning this guy who's like an actual predator,
mm.
like a legitimate offending predator who was using the platform to harm kids, right? Um, and I didn't notice anything in here about that.
There was a,
Um,
you said somebody like took a screenshot of your daughter or something and sent it to you.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he actually got unbanned today. They only banned him for 30 days after all that.
Weird.
I don't see, I mean, but yeah, so anyways, if that's the case, then the entire Twitch community could have gotten banned because,
Hmm.
one thing that I say in my YouTube video that I added today about Mr. Girl is that people asking me, well, what kind of problem do you have with this content? And I'm being very honest that the problem I have with the content in general is not just on Mr. Girl's end; it's on all the Twitch politics community end. I don't think that they're responsibly discussing this topic, which is very sensitive and needs to be approached from a perspective of like also warning kids about it. Like you shouldn't be making jokes about it. You shouldn't be making satirical, edgy videos about how you're a pedophile who rapes babies, right? This is objectively harmful for the youth because it makes it seem like a joke, like it's funny. And in their young, impressionable, growing brains, that seeds in there. And it's well known that kids, groomers and people who want to take advantage of kids often start by making things into jokes and getting them more comfortable with the idea of pedophilia. And so if you're going to talk about pedophilia and like how you want non-offending pedophiles to have therapy and, all of this, okay, that's fine. But, making satirical videos like that, and obviously you saw the tweet, I think probably that started it all, his tweet that was like, have you ever wondered if you're a pedophile? You're not alone. Like he intentionally uses pedophilia as clickbait to get people to click on his stream and hate watch. And so if you're going to be an edgelord and use pedophilia as clickbait, without like context, well, like POCD, okay, no, I didn't know what that was, but I'm not like, who's going to go Google that when the first two sentences of your tweet exist, right? So he knows that, and he's being an edgelord, and I wasn't the only person to tweet negatively about that. Like for some reason, if anything happens and I'm involved, people just shit on me because they don't like me. But yeah, I think that if you're going to be an edgelord like that, you should probably expect some lashback. And me saying that I don't like that kind of content and don't think that it should be on the platform, that's my right to free speech. So it's ironic that people are saying I'm anti-free speech. I'm allowed to say what I think. That's free speech. It's also not free speech. Like you do not have free speech on a platform with which you've entered into a user agreement to abide by certain guidelines, right? It's not against free speech if you get banned for breaking those guidelines.
Yeah, it has
That's not
nothing
what
to
free
do
speech
with,
is.
it has nothing
So
to do
people
with
who
free
go,
speech.
oh, I'm a pro free speech advocate, it's like, that's not what fucking free speech is. It drives me crazy when people don't understand the First Amendment.
Yeah, free speech is between you and the government, not you and some business. So
Right, but and I would argue though that big tech. I believe, I don't know how you feel about this, but I believe that the government and big tech are hand in hand, right? And I think that when you talk about big tech censorship, what you're really talking about is suppressing one side of a political party, suppressing one side's opinion by shadow banning or censoring them when they haven't broken TOS so that you only see one side. And really what that is like targeted propaganda. And that's the danger of big tech censorship. But again, that's not the same thing as free speech. So anybody who says free speech in relation to this drama, you're just an idiot who needs to go read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Like you're stupid.
yeah. So are you like anti-censorship? Is that why you were like wanted to be very clear that you didn't have anything to do with his banning?
Absolutely. Yeah. Ironically, I have gone through a lot of deplatforming attempts directed towards me. Probably as many as anybody else, more than most people. And yeah, I don't advocate for deplatforming unless somebody is actively using a platform to break the law, like the Predator, who I did try to get banned, was actually using a Twitch channel with the esports team to draw kids into a Discord server where he was being like sexually inappropriate with them, right? So this was a different situation because, yeah, those people need to be banned and deplatformed. There are people who should not be platformed because they are using the platform to hurt kids or something, right?
Yeah.
So I think we all agree that like we don't want people just murdering people on stream, right? You have to draw a line at like criminal activity. But that said, I don't have any evidence that Mr. Girl's ever committed any kind of criminal activity. And so, yeah, that's how I've always felt. And if anybody watching my stream, they know because I've said this multiple times that that's my stance on, deplatforming and cancel culture. That said, if I don't like what you say, I'm still going to fucking say I don't like it,
Yeah.
I just think that people thought that I was trying to deplatform him when really that's not the case, which is what I reached out to him privately and said.
So
and then I publicly said it. So.
I don't think you got him banned. Or at least there's no evidence to say that. I don't know. It's more so that there's no way of knowing. And so there's no reason to think that you got him banned. But if, so let me ask you, because I know this is like the most common question, like if you if that wasn't your intent, what was the point behind like adding Twitch with
Okay,
the
yeah.
tweet?
So, I mean, this is just something that I've been doing for a really long time to the point that it just kind of became a habit. But I can see why that's been misinterpreted. But again, Twitch does not look at my tweets. We had a viral, something go viral not too long ago when I added Twitch about this Predator guy. And then I added Twitch support about having problem purchasing bits, and they responded right away, kind of proving that like Twitch isn't looking at my Twitter. They're not looking at it. If they were, they would have taken action on this other dude a long time ago. I know that. Everybody who follows me probably knows that. Twitch isn't looking at my Twitter.
In my
So that
experience,
wasn't
they
the
don't look
intent.
at anybody's tweets.
They don't
Like
look at anybody's
nobody's.
Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's not like I said ban this person. All I said was like hold the whole Twitch accountable thing is just like a copy pasta that I put on all of my tweets that involve like content on Twitch, which I feel can harm children, right? So if you're going to have these kinds of discussions on Twitch, you need to also make sure it's a safe platform that takes action against known people who are hurting kids, right?
By like banning
So
people who talk
by
about
banning people
pedophilia.
who were no, by banning people who are pedophiles,
Okay.
like, and using the platform to hurt people, right? Because they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much you know about this, but like, I mean, I am kind of a conspiracy theorist, but like, there are a lot of pedophiles on Twitch. There's a lot of child groomers on Twitch. There's a lot of child groomers on Discord and places like that. And so it's really a haven for them, right? This is a hot spot for people who want to prey on kids because it's a kids platform where they come to play video games and watch video games.
Yeah. So, if you want, if you want Twitch to hold them accountable, but you didn't want like Mr. Girl, you didn't want him banned, like how would they hold Mr. Girl accountable? Because he was your example in there, right?
No. Hold Twitch accountable
Oh, you
for
want
not
people to
banning,
hold Twitch accountable.
yes, for
Okay.
not banning people who are known to prey on children while simultaneously hosting open talks about pedophilia, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So what would they do about like the open talks about pedophilia? Would they
I
ban
think
those
that
people?
no, not necessarily. But I would rather have that content if it's going to be out there. I would rather react to it because I want to be able to say my piece. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like if you're going to have your side, I want to have my side, and I want my side to be just as loud as your side. Does that make sense? So no, I don't want anyone to get banned because honestly, I was planning to react to all of that same night,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't do that now. You know.
So then okay, so then how would people hold Twitch accountable for allowing people to have conversations about pedophilia?
Like again, the whole Twitch accountable is more of like a hashtag that I started,
Yeah, I understand.
right? It's not like it wasn't something that was specific to that
Okay.
incident. That's why I feel like it was fairly misinterpreted.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like when I looked at that, like I feel like people unfairly misinterpret me a lot and unfairly mischaracterize me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But in this particular case, because of that, I can see why that was short-sighted, which is why I publicly admitted to it and also apologized if it came across that way and tried to like just tell people that this is just like a copy pasta that I put at the bottom of all of my tweets. You know what I mean?
So do you have a problem with Mr. Girl having somebody on with POCD?
No, I don't think that I have a problem with that necessarily. But I didn't honestly. I didn't watch this. I didn't watch the stream. Like I didn't even see the stream until it was like over. So, and then it was banned like a couple hours later. So I didn't even watch the content, except when I clicked on it originally. But no, I've seen a lot of Mr. Girl stuff, and I would say that for the most part, he gives me the. I'm just gonna be like, he gives me the creeps, and I don't really like him. I don't like a lot of the things that he says. And I definitely don't think it's responsible. Like you can't say like I'm against pedophilia and then also have a video on your YouTube called I'm a pedophile where you joke about raping babies. And then or where you talk about raping babies and then say, "Oh, it's just a joke." You know? Like that's not responsible at all. Because if we're being responsible, what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, we need to have open discussions about this. But we also need to show that it's very serious. Child sex abuse is very serious. It's not funny, and kids are actually in danger online. And we want to put that out in the open before we talk about it. That's how I would approach a discussion on pedophilia, right? So, but in my opinion, you can't be like, I'm anti-pedophilia while also having that satirical content that minimizes the harm that kind of content, that kind of stuff, child sex abuse causes to society. You know what I mean?
I understand, I guess, what you're saying. I don't know that I agree that it like minimizes it necessarily. Like I think lots of people, even who have been victims of pedophilia, it could probably make jokes about their own trauma and stuff like
Well,
that.
that's for them to decide. That's not for
Sure.
you to decide.
Yeah, sure, but I'm saying that like whether or not you make jokes about it doesn't necessarily mean that you're minimizing it, right?
I mean, I would say that it depends on the extent and type of joke, right? When you make a fucking 4 minute long rap video about like explicitly tying kids to the bed and raping them, like that's too fucking much, bro. Like that goes beyond joke. And then to make it even funnier, or not funnier, sorry, but like to make it even worse, at the very end, he's like, this is not a joke. So it's like, he wants to clickbait it. I know the mentality here. He's clickbaiting it. Like he wants people to click on it out of disgust, and he thinks that's how he's going to grow in viewership. So I imagine that quite a few of Mr. Girl's viewers probably watch it because they really don't agree. They click on it because they really do not agree. A lot of people have a visceral reaction like to that kind of content. So yeah, that's where I would stand on that.
Yeah, I put out a video kind of talking about this a little bit about an hour ago before I went live. Where I'm talking about the fact that like he obviously uses very provocative language to get people into his audience, and then he like then eventually gets into like his more nuanced takes about it. And I think that that's like a thing that a lot of people do, is where they start off very provocative and saying crazy stuff to like get the views and get the audience, and then later on they move on to like, actually digging into what they actually meant by this or what they actually think about these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
that that's what Mr. Girl's doing.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right, but I mean, I don't think that you can fairly clickbait pedophilia in the way that he does it and then get mad when people disagree or respond negatively to that, you know?
Yeah. And I don't see much harm from like making the jokes outside of the fact that like somebody who has probably trauma with that specifically is going to have some issues with like his songs, like I'm a pedophile, and stuff like that. That's the only like harm I could see coming from a video like that.
Okay, so the harm that I'm describing is okay, and I know that there's a lot of people who are going to disagree with me on this, but I believe that there is a concerted attempt to normalize, or at the very least destigmatize pedophilia. And like I believe that the goal of many of these people is to lower the age of consent and push for, lower prison sentences, therapy instead of prison sentences, stuff like that, because you can't just straight up come out and say, I think pedophilia is fine, and it's, although there are people who are saying, it's a sexual orientation, it's natural, the MAPS thing, right? And that problem with that is that it's a foot in the door. And that's what I believe. I believe that there is a concerted attempt to normalize pedophilia and make people sympathetic to them. And that a lot of these people who really actually feel that way, they won't come out and say it because they know how unpopular it will be. So instead, they try to start by making jokes and like, oh, I'm just edgy, I'm just being an edgelord, or I just want sympathy for non-offenders. And to me, it looks like it's moving in the direction that I really don't like to see. And the other problem with that kind of content, like I said before, is that grooming, right, child grooming, or making kids a little bit more open to the idea of sex with an adult, because it's not always rape. In fact, it's usually not. It's usually a person who gets with a 13-year-old girl, like 30-year-old man. Hey, this is fine. It's normal. Lots of people feel this way. This happens all the time. It's see, watch this music video. It's funny. It's a joke. Like it's no big deal, right? And they manipulate them psychologically into a relationship with them, so that they're actually, having sex with this person consensually, although we know that kids can't consent, right? But they're not actively like raping them by force, right? And the problem is that grooming behavior begins with jokes and kind of just minimalizing the harm caused by child sex assault, to get the kids more open to the idea, right? And that's where I think that really, really poor taste jokes like that can harm kids on a large scale, because kids on this platform come and they watch it and they become a fan of his, right? And over time, they begin to think, oh, it's really not that big of a deal, when in fact, kids need to be constantly aware of the dangers that are imposed by the internet, by uses of sites like Twitch and Discord.
Yeah, I'm not like I have trouble with some of this as well. Like there are people out there who seem as though they want to normalize pedophilia, and I understand like the destigmatize argument a little bit more, but I think that like the line between I think it's a little blurry between normalizing and destigmatizing, and I think a lot of people will start to disagree on like when it becomes normalizing and stops being destigmatizing and stuff like.
Right?
Yeah, so
and
like
I'm not even sure that I'm pro destigmatizing it, right? Because stigmas, in some cases, represent an important facet of society, right? If there's a stigma against something, you're very likely to repress the urges that you have and not act on them. And this doesn't just apply to urges towards like, pedophiles, but also people who want to commit violent acts or, have temper problems. They want to punch their hand through the wall all the time, right? When we know it's not good to do that. These are bad things in society. It's a good versus bad mentality. When you talk to a lot of these people, they'll say there is no bad. Honestly, have you talked to anybody who has this idea that there's no evil, there's no such thing as evil, there's no such thing as bad? It kind of ties into this whole topic, right? That's where the line becomes blurry. When you stop looking at things as objectively bad and start saying, well, I mean, it's bad, but maybe it's okay if they, if it's normal, and you're blurring the line between good and bad,
Yeah.
And so this is like definitely like more of a moral philosophical like argument or like trajectory you could take this conversation. But basically, I do feel like there are some things where stigma should remain there. It should stay. Because I also don't agree with this idea that like, we should destigmatize it so that they seek help. And it's like, well, what kind of harm do you cause to society by destigmatizing it? Is that, like you said, the line's already blurry between destigmatizing and normalizing. So if you go straight to destigmatizing, you're one step closer to the normalization of it, which is a big risk, right? And some people may honestly interpret the destigmatizing as normalization because of how blurry the line is. And so I don't think that there's any real evidence to suggest that if we work to destigmatize it, more offenders would come forward and get therapy. Because I don't really think that you can destigmatize something like sex with a child. For most people, you can't destigmatize that, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think that this is helpful in any way. I don't think it's going to result in more pedophiles coming forward. I really don't.
Yeah, we went over research on here one day that did say that there's a lot of evidence to say that they would get help or get therapy a lot more easily, or they would be willing to at least like ask for help or come out and say that they have a problem if it was somewhat destigmatized. A lot of times, like I draw the lines at like kind of probably weird places. Like I would understand like wanting to destigmatize a non-offending pedophile, somebody who's never done anything wrong, but they have an attraction to kids. But I don't want to call them MAPS because I feel like that is normalizing it. I feel like there is a stigma. There is a stigma on the word pedophile that kind of needs to stay there. That's not on the word MAPS, and so I don't want to call them MAPS. That I don't want them like in the LGBTQ line or whatever whatever else they're adding. I don't want to do those things, but I do think like talking about the fact that somebody could be a pedophile and have these attractions but not actually offend and not even like the fact that they have these thoughts or have these attractions. I think that that's like I don't want to punish somebody for something that they can't necessarily help.
And this is like a really interesting topic that again delves into like philosophy and like psychology. And like I don't profess to be like an expert in psychology or anything like that, but I don't know if you're familiar with like Jungian psychology and archetypes and think like ideas that are kind of Freudian, but like have to do with what we call the shadow, which is just that part of ourselves which we don't allow the world to see, that we stuff inside because we're afraid that if that came out, society would judge us. And the fact is that Jungian shadow actually plays an important role in society. We do live in a society, right? So, like, if everybody were to just like say, destigmatize all of your deepest, darkest desires, imagine that would be a very terrible thing for society, which is why Carl Jung said that while it's important to acknowledge what's in that dark space of yours, and especially in therapy with people who are having issues, especially important from a psychologist perspective to address what's in those people's like the deep dark desires that cause people to become depressed and so on and so forth. But it's not something you want to shout off the rooftops to the world, because if you did that, it would no longer be in your shadow, right? It would no longer be suppressed due to societal norms. My argument is that societal norms and stigmas are good in a way that they are contained. So the slippery slope of that is that if you start just shouting from the rooftops all of your deepest, darkest desires, the world becomes a very dark place, right?
Yeah.
And another thing I would say is that when you talk about the difference between maps versus pedophiles, and you don't want the word maps to become normalized, but you want to destigmatize it, but you don't want this. Like you want your cake and you want to eat it too, right? As soon as you destigmatize it, it becomes like LGBTQ. It becomes like, hey, this is just a normal way of being, and there's normalization. Boom, you're a map. That's an accepted term, right? So it's a really easy pathway. It's steps they're taking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's this many steps to the top, right? Destigmatize it. Call us maps. All of a sudden, you're in the LGBTQ community, and people are accepting it as a sexual orientation, right? I think we need to stop it in its tracks, personally.
I mean, so normally if people have like a reason behind destigmatizing it, but their reason also applies to other things down the line, then I think that that makes sense. That like, yeah, we should be afraid of other thing of it applying to all of these other things later on. But if the reasoning actually doesn't apply to anything else, and in this case, I don't think that for the most part it does, where we say like, hey, we want to lessen the amount of children who are actually being harmed, and so getting more pedophiles help or making it easier for them to come out with this sort of information. And when I say come out, I don't want them walking around talking about how hot some 8-year-old is, right? When I say come out,
like
I don't
Mr. Girl
want it.
does when he did the review of Cuties.
Yes. Yeah, I don't want that sort of stuff normalized, but I want it to be where like somebody could say, yes, I am a pedophile, and they could possibly get help, or people could watch them, or they could be put on a list to like stay away from school buses and school zones and like all sorts of other things that I think that could come with that if it was easier for them to ask for help.
My argument against that would be that they can do that now.
They can, but it's a lot easier if it's destigmatized. So like the other day I was talking.
If you're going to do that, then if you're going to destigmatize it, that means that people won't judge you for it, right? Would you agree that that's kind of a fair interpretation of stigma?
Yeah, I think that that's one of the things, yes.
Yeah, okay. So for one thing, that's never going to happen. You know what I mean? But if it were to happen, that would implicitly be a moral judgment in favor of that state of mind, right? So, like, I really do think that they're like, here's the thing. And I was actually talking to a therapist about this the other day, like a psychologist. And I asked him about this because I was dealing with it in my head, and I was trying to like figure out where I stood on this subject, because I'm not of the wood chipper variety, right? I'm not trying to just go take people who haven't committed a crime and throw them in a fucking wood chipper. Like, that's not, people characterize me as like this, pearl clutching like Karen, right? But I acknowledge there has to be some kind of structured way of dealing with people who haven't committed a crime. But at the same time, if you go to a therapist and you say, man, I keep having these urges to shoot up my school, like, I keep fantasizing about killing my parents, like a child or something, right? Or something like that. If the therapist really thinks that you intend to do that or are at risk of doing that, they still have to report that. And it's the same thing with these pedophilic urges, like, perhaps not allowing, maybe treating them in a way that, like, they're not supposed to be around schools and around kids. Like, I would not want my kid to be around somebody who is attracted to kids, even if they're, oh, I would never act on it. No, fuck you, get out of my fucking house. You know what I mean? I don't know if you have kids, but I definitely have a daughter. And so I feel like, do you have any kids?
No.
So I feel like the opinions of parents in particular tend to be a bit more visceral here, right? Because in the back of our minds, we're always thinking about somebody, what happens if somebody hurts our child? What happens if our child is hurt, our child is killed? Like, to the extent that, and I don't think that anybody who doesn't have kids can understand this feeling, but like, I've sat and I've wondered if I should seek therapy about how anxious I get about my kid dying or being hurt, right? Like, I think about how I would kill myself if she died. What do I have to live for?
Right.
Like, this little thing that I birthed and raised is literally the only thing I have to live for. Like, that's the mindset of a parent, right? Like, the mindset is, if I found out that somebody had hurt my kid, the things that I would do would not be, like, to protect my kid, there is no limit to what I would do. Let's just put it that way, right? And not in a video game, in real life. So I think that there's a distinction between some of the younger people on the platform, some of the younger people on Twitter who are really more progressive and don't have maybe as much life experience and don't have that aspect of knowing what it's like to be a parent. And then on the other end of that is, like, me personally, as a private investigator, I do a lot of work with missing children and also, like, investigating people who are suspected of, like, child trafficking and stuff like that. And so I've personally seen, like, really horrible situations occur because of Discord grooming, because of, like, I think in this case it was like a Fortnite player. But, these pedophiles, they gravitate towards spaces where there's a lot of kids, And so I've dealt with the trauma kind of having to see this personally, what effects it has on the parents and the people around the child,
Yeah. But again, I mean, I think that's why it's important to, like, do things that we have evidence of, like, lessening the amount that they would be able to harm children and hopefully get them help. And then even, like I said, like, even like things like where if they say, like, yeah, I don't want to do these things and I would like safeguards in place, then yeah, putting them on lists to where it's like they're not going to be near school buses and they're not going to be around, parks.
They would argue, though, that that's stigmatizing
it. I think it can in ways, but I don't know that it necessarily has to be I don't know that that's necessarily stigmatizing it to just say, like, hey, yeah, we want to help you. Like, if I'm a heroin addict and I want help, like, it's likely that people are going to, like, move the pills away from me, or they're going to, like, keep them in their purse when I'm around, or they're going to make sure that there's, like, not money laying around because I'm likely going to steal it and go get drugs. Like, I think I can come out sometimes and ask for help for that sort of thing, but I'm not necessarily going to be stigmatized for doing so.
Right. Yeah. And I guess what I would argue against that, and another, like, direction you could take this discussion, is that, like, once again, you're not going to be able to remove stigma. So look at LGBTQ, right? So they still have not succeeded in removing the stigma around them, like widespread stigma. I mean, there's still, if you're just even if you're just looking in America, because if you look at the rest of the world, it's much darker, right? But if you look in America, there's still going to be people who disagree with that lifestyle. There's still going to be people who, with whom that stigma is real. And so so they know that. And so instead of pushing for more acceptance, which I think they do that too, but they're much more likely to go the legislation route and start passing laws in their favor, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
So I think that that's a dangerous thing that we should acknowledge too, is that destigmatization is never going to really happen. The only way they're really going to like gain any traction is through enacting laws that support their way of life.
I mean, that's true, but there's also still a lot of Christians around who would say, like, yeah, it's fine, like, it should be legal, but I still think it's immoral. But I'll, like, treat those people like normal people, and I'll have conversations with them and whatever else. But I think it's immoral to be gay or to, to be trans or whatever. Like, a lot of the stigma, the social stigma has come off of it, even though the moral stigma hasn't. And so I think that's a lot of times what we're talking about with
Right.
pedophilia is saying, like, yeah, like the way you interact with it might change, even though you still think, like, if they acted on these feelings, that it would still be immoral.
Right, but I think that the majority of those people who you're describing would not feel the same about a pedophile because that relates to children being harmed, whereas a gay couple doesn't harm anybody, right? Like directly. So I think that when it comes to pedophilia, that's never going to happen. Like there's never going to be people who go, yeah, I mean, morally I'm opposed to it, but like I think they should be accepted in society. Like I just don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, sure,
And I
but
think that what's going to happen more likely is like pushes towards pro non-offending pedophilia legislation and things like that.
yeah, well, that's what I was responding to, is your point about the fact that, like, we can't actually destigmatize these things, that even with the LGBTQ, we haven't
Right.
really destigmatized it. And my point is, like, well, in a lot of ways we have destigmatized it, and even with people who still think it's immoral anyways, the stigma for a lot of them is still gone as well. It's just not completely normalized to them.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I mean, I'm personally a little bit more of the stance of still keep that shit stigmatized. You know what I mean? That's just I've thought about it a lot. Honestly, I will say that all of the discussions that Mr. Girl has spawned on the platform is what caused me to start thinking about this in the first place. So in that way, I'm actually thankful for him initiating those conversations because without it, I would have been in the dark about a lot of these things. I have thought about it a lot thanks to the discussions on the Twitch Politics platform. And I think that I have my stance, which is a lot the opposite side of some of these people, right? I'm not at the wood chipper yet, um, there's that in too, right? But I've always taken more of a moderate kind of centrist approach, for most of my stances. And, for this one, I just think that I'm more likely to disagree that destigmatizing, attraction to children is a good thing in any way.
Okay. Yeah, I think lots of times, I think that Mr. Girl definitely, like, blurs the lines between, like, what's ironic and what's serious, and he, like, gets so deep in irony sometimes that, like, it's hard to tell what it is that he's even talking about. And I think if he has, like, goals with actually moving these things forward, he makes that a lot more difficult with the jokes that he makes, and with
Right.
with the
Yeah.
way that he has these conversations. But
Yeah, like for example, when I posted my tweet about him before he got banned or any of that, he added more fuel to the fire by retweeting me and making a joke about raping kids, which then got more people even angrier about it
the
and led to
wiping
my
his
tweet getting more
tears.
attention. So yeah, so he brought more attention on himself by tweeting that joke, right? So it's not like, oh, that was in his past and he's better now. Like, no, he clearly still and in that case, he's actually using child rape as a way to harass, like not harass, but like in like make somebody angry or upset, right? He's weaponizing child rape in that post, right? So you can't say that making it like if somebody's angry at your content and you make a joke to them about raping a child, you're weaponizing it at that point. You're
Yeah,
wielding it like a club to make people who maybe you could have brought to your side, make them even angrier at you.
yeah, yeah. He's using the fact that it makes people uncomfortable as a weapon for sure to make them even more uncomfortable. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And and like ironically, that's when my tweet started to pop off.
You think?
Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so yeah, I
I've
mean, I really just don't think that I was responsible for the ban. And I think it's irresponsible of a lot of these YouTubers to even imply that I was,
mhm.
without also saying we don't really actually have any evidence. I mean, you could say I think she might have been, but like to say she caused his ban, like there, you don't even know that. And honestly, I find it a bit sus that Max hasn't come out and showed the ban email.
Yeah. He said he hasn't gotten one.
Well, maybe he's checking the wrong folder
Yeah, it's.
because
I
it's
got
their
one within
policy to send it.
seconds. Yeah, I got one
Yeah,
within
so
seconds.
yeah, he says that, but
Also,
maybe he just doesn't want to show it.
if you Google Mr. Girl, his channel for Twitch still pops up as an option, which is strange. Mine came down from everywhere immediately.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
so they changed how they deal with bans. So they are you banned on Twitch right now?
Hmm.
Don't say yes. No, say no. You're
Nope.
not. You're not. Okay, good. Um, I'm live on Twitch right now. But deleted. Yeah. So the problem is that so they enacted a new policy, right? Where basically you when you go to his landing page, it'll tell you it's been taken down due to TOS violation. So it's no
Okay.
longer like it no longer just says the page is in a different castle. It says the user deleted this page, or this page has a temporary suspension, or this page has been permanently suspended. So it gives you a lot more insight into the status of that page.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
If
sense.
that makes sense. Hold on one second. I'm gonna take you off here. Put myself back up here. Give me 1 second.
Probably a good idea.
Nobody's saying anything. Okay. All right. Hold on. Uh-oh. There we go. All right. So yeah, that's what I would say. I really don't think that I had anything to do with it, and I think that I get a lot of hate for whatever reason. Uh, I seem to be like one of the most hated small streamers on the platform, and there's really not a good reason for it. Like, to be honest, it's just because a couple of large creators decided they didn't like me, and their opinions are really pervasive in the political communities, right? So when a large creator starts, puts on his channel that like, starts, quote tweeting me out of context and making, taking punches at me, like that really does affect all of that person's orbiters, which is everyone, right? Everybody wants to be looked on in favor of these specific large creators. So when that large creator doesn't like you and starts to view you as an enemy, so do most everybody else. And that's kind of where I'm at and why there's so much negativity around pretty much everything that I fucking say, no matter how innocuous. Um, so it makes sense that people would just immediately try to jump on the bandwagon of blaming me and hating me for it.
Yeah. I do you not have like an army of people who come to your
No,
defense? Do you not do
not on
your
Twitter.
followers? No?
No, I'm not that. I'm not really. I'm not very big. That's why I said for a small streamer,
Hmm.
people really shit on me a lot because like I don't know. I don't have nearly as big of an audience as most of these creators. You just hear about me a lot because for some reason they really like to use me for clicks. I'm reactable.
Yeah, maybe. Do you not like try them first, or like do you not think going after Mr. Girl like you would have expected a big
In
blowback
this
from his
case,
community?
this was different because in this case, it's different because, yeah, I definitely was the person who started that. But what I'm saying is that the the community as a whole has a much more negative view of me now, so that whatever happens always ends up being, oh, I'm sure it was BXBullet's fault. I hate that dumb bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely I can definitely see that uh you get a lot more crap on a regular basis. And then even like the way that we met initially was because of the cute root video from the Groypers.
Yeah, that was trash. And I mean, so that was an interesting situation where everybody started coming to my defense.
Hmm.
Because I guess people hate Groypers more than they hate me. Um, but, after that, too, it was also kind of like, that was one of those moments in your career where you go, wow, like this is it. This is as bad as it can be. Because when you reach a point where people are trying to dox you to get you fired from your job and calling CPS on you,
Hmm.
like it can't get much worse than that, right? So in a way, I guess I owe them a thank you because I've already been through hell. And so now things like this seem relatively meh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll get through the other side of this just fine. No one's threatening my livelihood or trying to take away my child or call me a child abuser. Like the effects of that have lasted. Like I still get people in my chat telling me I'm a child abuser and stuff. So like that's definitely like something that had a long-term effect on my life. Whereas this, people will forget about it.
It's so weird too, cause like the you would think like Groypers are fine with like spanking and stuff like that, and they're
I mean, I didn't even spank her. They
I'm
just
just saying,
added
like,
that in
even if
there.
that's what they thought, like, you would think
Yeah.
that they wouldn't even have a problem with that. Like,
Well,
they're pretty authoritarian people with
you know
like
the greater than
traditional
signs?
values. The what?
The greater than signs? It's like they hate single moms more than they hate this. Well, they hate OnlyFans girls more than they hate single moms, and they hate single moms more than they hate child abusers. You know what I mean? It's like they might support this, but oh my god, she's a single mom, so that negates everything. Who cares? Let's fucking take this bitch down because we hate her.
Why do they
Right.
hate single moms?
Because they're extremely I don't know. I don't want to enrage the Groypers, so I'll just shut up. But
Okay,
like,
because they're. I mean, I
they're
guess
they're
they.
very pro trad ideals.
Yeah, they do have a lot of like connections with incels or like that. A huge crossover with the
Hmm.
incel community. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's really more of just like it's not incels as much as it is traditional values. Like, um, we want a husband and a wife, a white husband and a white wife,
Hmm.
right? Having white babies. That's their idea of traditional. So when Mayo said that black people can be groypers too, as long as they're racist, that was one of the things that just broke my brain. I was like, okay, I'm out.
And there are black Groypers as well. There's
Yeah.
yeah.
But they're also racist against black people. It's like the black white supremacists from Chappelle Show, I guess.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They are very similar to that. Yep.
Yeah. So they that's why it's like, and also because I was I wasn't trolling them on Twitter. I was just defending Stardust. But I got into a Twitter fight with Mio, whatever.
Hmm.
And that's why all of that started.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
I've
took
had
it to 11.
they did. Yes. I've had some run-ins with the roots a couple of times, so.
Yeah, to me, that was an attempt to deplatform me, and not to mention that all these same YouTubers who are telling me that I got Mr. Girl banned are the same YouTubers who were saying that I ruined my career by beating my child on stream. So I hate to say, I'm just gonna fucking say it. I don't care. All these YouTube drama creators, streamers are fucking idiots. Like they do not care. They do not have like a moral compass that says, should I look into this before I post it? Of course not. It'll get clicks. Just post it anyways, right? That's why so many of them get sued all the time because they'll post things that are completely untrue or like in my case were made as like a hate video by racists. But you think the Keemstar thought about that before he shared it? Probably not. He
Yeah.
just saw that it was getting a lot of views and he shared it without even thinking twice about it. So they're not out there trying to verify facts before they report on them. And for that reason, I have honestly very little respect for any YouTube streamer who is really just a drama farmer.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I know how you feel. I don't have an issue with it. I don't have like I wouldn't say that I don't have any respect for them cuz it's kind of like necessary in the like atmosphere in Twitch politics like the way that everything works where like you have to be very performative and entertaining in order to get an audience like it's and even the debates are like
Well, you have to
screaming
do
and
that. You have to
yelling.
do that here.
So, well,
And you have to do that here in the Twitch politics space
yeah,
too.
no, that's what I'm saying is that in Twitch politics, like you have to be very performative, you have to do all of these
Mm.
things, and then that kind of like all of that all of that is obviously in drama as well, and so like it's
Hmm.
the a crowd that wants debates that are like super aggro are gonna it's gonna be the same crowd that also wants like a lot of drama as well.
Right. But I believe that being performative and having integrity are mutually exclusive things. I do not believe that performative people that like in order to become that performative person, you lose integrity, right? So you're not thinking about like, oh, does this actually mesh with my life ideals like and like what my moral values are and am I considering what kind of effects this is going to have on people before I post this hit piece on them, you know um and basically they say, ooh, it's like a calculation they do. Yeah, it's bad, but ooh, the clicks. You know
Mhm.
what I call this? I call it YouTube derangement syndrome, right? It's where people become so focused on how many views, how many clicks, which of course equates to money for most of them, right? That they completely put aside any kind of integrity or moral compass or anything that they may have had normally, right? So a lot of them would probably admit that, yeah, that was a shitty thing for me to do, huh, but I made so much money off of it. And to me, that's a sign of low integrity and something that I can never do, which is why I don't engage with Twitch politics anymore.
I don't know. To me, like it's kind of like just like a necessary part of the community, and just like if I want to stream or engage in that community, then I'm like implicitly agreeing to have whatever happens to me be farmed out as drama at some point.
Right, until they go too far and you lose your day job
Yeah.
or CPS knocks on your door, which is, I have seen that side of it. It
Hmm.
can go there. So like I felt like I felt the way you feel. Like what you just said, I used to feel that way too. Until it got real. And like unlike some of these streamers, I have a day job. Um a really good day job. And I have a child and a life outside of Twitch that is more important to me than my social media presence, right? So I have to consider that in addition to all the other things that streamers normally consider,
So, what
you
would you
know?
say to people who would tell you that it is on you then to like remove yourself from the community if those are parts that like you don't want to deal with or that you're
Well,
afraid
I
of?
did.
Oh, you mean like you just don't engage with them anymore?
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going on the drunken debates with John Burke on Saturday, but that's just because he's a close friend of mine and it's typically a very mild, tame.
Does he still do that? I didn't know he still
Yeah, well,
did
it's new.
those.
Well, he's bringing it back. It's been a year.
Yeah, because I was about to say I
Yeah.
could have sworn right when I got uh around the time that I left, I was doing panels at the same time, and when I left, he stopped doing his panels at the same time.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's coming back on Saturday at 7 p.m.
that's
So,
cool.
yeah. I'm excited. But yeah, anyways, like, I don't engage. Like, I don't engage with Destiny. He takes a lot of hits at me. I try not to engage. I try not to engage with his the trolls that come into my chat all the time. I try not to engage with Twitch politics in general. The Mr. Girl thing was a little bit different. I wasn't trying to engage myself in Twitch politics, when I did that. But
Hmm.
I guess it was, like I said, short sighted. I should have seen that was going to potentially cause an issue for me. But again, yeah, I remove myself. I don't go on shows anymore. I don't even people invite me. Like I accepted your invite because I felt like you were going to approach it in good faith, and you did. So thank you. But a lot of people will say things like, yeah, it's going to, like, for example, Hunter Avalone, when he approached me the first time, I said, I will come on your show as long as you can ensure it's going to be a good faith. I'm not looking to have a debate, really, like with debate bro tactics. I'm looking to have a discussion.
Hmm.
And he was saying, well, sure, yeah, we can do that. Yeah. And then out the gate just started boom, 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 debate broing me, and I felt that was very bad faith. And that's why I don't, and I've had that happen before. Also, Destiny did the same thing. So I just don't accept invites when people ask me to come on their show anymore. Hardly ever, because the outcome is usually that. So thank you for not.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you accepting my invite. Did you have
Yeah.
anything else?
No, man, just that, I mean, this whole thing will blow over. Like, again, I never intended, I don't think I had anything to do with this ban. And yeah, hopefully he gets a response from Twitch soon and gets his channel restored.
Yep. Okay.
Oh my God, that scared me. Sometimes I forget that John Zerka is living with me.
Does he live there?
Well, he said at first he was like, hey, can I stay at your place for a couple of days? And I was like, sure. Now it's been like 2 weeks and he doesn't he said leaving, so.
He's a freaking homeless person living in your house.
He's yelling at somebody right now. I don't know. No, it's fine. We're friends. We watch conspiracy shows together. I needed somebody to watch conspiracy shows with, so
Nice.
yeah. But anyways, yeah, I appreciate this talk. I think it was good. And like I said, I have a video up on my YouTube where I kind of lay out everything that happened and my thoughts about it. So
Okay.
if you want to react to it, feel free. And if not, then good luck with your channel. I noticed that you were at 666 subscribers
Yeah, it just hit the
when I started.
666.
So
Yeah.
I told my community that they needed to change that. It looks like you have 667 now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right. I don't do that satanic bullshit on my channel. I'm just kidding. I'm
You messed up the 666. Oh no.
sorry. All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you talking to me, man.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good night.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Crap, dude, I feel bad. I told her I was banned. I'm sweating now. Like as soon as she was like, "Wait, I'm streaming." I was like, "Oh no." Oh no, dude. Please don't tell me that. Like what the hell, man? I damn it, dude. Now everybody's going to be coming after me for getting somebody banned.